The sun burned low over the Montana plains, bleeding red across the horizon as two young sisters, Ella and May Turner, stood beside a wagon that wasn't theirs. Dust swirled around their bare feet, and their father's hand gripped their arms too tightly. His face was hard, eyes cold with desperation. "You'll live better this way," he muttered, though his voice cracked. But both girls knew the truth. He wasn't saving them, he was selling them. At just 19 and 17, they were handed over like property to a man twice their father's age, land baron Silas Crowder. He was wealthy, cruel, and known for breaking everything he bought, whether horses, land, or people. When the coins clinked in their father's trembling hand, Ella's heart shattered. She wanted to scream, to run, but May's small hand squeezed hers. "Don't cry, Ellie," she whispered. "We still have each other." Crowder's ranch was the largest for miles, brawling fields, tall fences, and iron gates that locked behind them with a sound that felt like the closing of a prison door. His foreman leered as they passed. The baron's booming voice followed, "You'll earn your keep. I don't tolerate laziness." That night, the sisters slept on straw behind the kitchen, listening to the laughter of men who saw them as nothing but entertainment. Days turned to weeks. Crowder's cruelty grew. He'd make Ella scrub floors until her hands bled and force May to serve whiskey to ranch hands who couldn't keep their hands to themselves. Ella fought him once when he raised his hand to May, and she still carried the scar where his ring had cut her cheek. She swore she'd find a way out, even if it killed her. Then, one quiet evening, while fetching water by the creek, they met two men. James and Luke Miller, ranchers from the neighboring valley, were known to keep to themselves. James, the elder, had eyes the color of storm clouds and a calm that could silence a crowd. Luke, the younger, was all fire and fists, always ready to fight injustice. When they saw the bruise on Ella's face and the haunted look in May's eyes, they knew something was wrong. "You work for Crowder?" James asked gently. Ella hesitated, afraid. "We belong to him," she whispered. Luke's jaw tightened. "Ain't nobody owns another soul," he muttered. James's gaze darkened, but he said nothing, just tipped his hat and promised quietly, "We'll see you again soon." That night, thunder rolled across the plains. The sisters huddled together in the barn, shivering as rain poured through cracks in the roof. Suddenly, the door burst open. Crowder staggered in drunk, his boots heavy on the wood. "You think you can hide from me, girl," he slurred, reaching for May. Ella threw herself in front of her sister, clawing and kicking until he struck her down. "Touch her again and I'll kill you." She spat through bloodied lips. Before Crowder could raise his hand again, a voice thundered from behind him, steady, low, and cold. "You've done enough." James stood in the doorway, rain dripping from his hat, rifle in hand. Luke was beside him, eyes burning. "We came for them." Luke growled. Crowder sneered. "They're mine. Paid good money for 'em." James stepped forward, slow and deliberate. "Then you wasted your money." He leveled the rifle. "You've got two choices, Crowder. Let them walk out, or I bury you right here." For a long moment, no one moved. The rain beat harder on the roof. Crowder's lip curled, but something in James's gaze, something cold and deadly, made him falter. "Fine." He spat. "Take him. They'll crawl back soon enough." But he was wrong. The sisters followed the Millers through the storm to their small ranch, nestled in a quiet valley, surrounded by pine. The brothers gave them food, dry clothes, and a warm fire, things that felt like miracles after months of misery. For days, Ella couldn't speak without trembling. May would startle at every noise, but slowly, with kindness and space, they began to heal. Luke taught May how to ride a horse, how to rope cattle, how to smile again. James spent evenings with Ella, teaching her to mend fences, to shoot, and unintentionally, to trust again. He never asked what Crowder had done. He only promised, "He'll never hurt you again." But Crowder wasn't done. A week later, a group of armed men rode up the Miller ranch, demanding the girl's return. "They're the baron's property." The lead man said, spitting tobacco, "You're harboring thieves." James stepped out onto the porch, rifle slung across his shoulder, calm as ever. Luke stood beside him, his hand hovering near his gun. "You tell Crowder," James said evenly. "He can come himself if he wants a talk, but he won't like how it ends." The men left muttering threats, and the ranch fell silent. That night Ella couldn't sleep. She walked outside, finding James by the firelight, staring into the dark. "He won't stop, will he?" she whispered. James shook his head slowly. "Men like him never do." "Then we run," she said. "No," he replied softly, meeting her eyes. "We stand." Before dawn, Crowder came with 6 riders, guns drawn. He shouted for the girls. "I'll burn this place to the ground before I let you make fools of me." But James and Luke were ready. The sisters, too. May was trembling, but she loaded cartridges beside Luke. Ella stood behind James, holding the rifle he'd taught her to use. When the first shot rang out, the valley exploded into chaos. Bullets tore through fences and splintered wood. James moved with deadly calm, picking off one rider after another. Luke charged forward, firing with fury, shouting over the roar of gunfire. Ella aimed and fired, her hands steady, her heart steady. The man who had bought her life was now fighting for his own. When it was over, the sun rose through the smoke. Crowder lay bleeding in the dust, his men scattered. He looked up at Ella, gasping, "You think you've won, you're nothing." Ella knelt beside him, eyes fierce and unbroken. "You were wrong," she whispered. "You don't own anyone anymore." He died with those words in his ears months past. The scars healed, though some ran deeper than flesh. The Turner sisters stayed on the Miller ranch, not out of debt or duty, but out of choice. They found work, laughter, peace, and something more. May's laughter followed Luke wherever he went, and soon she stopped calling him Mr. Miller. Ella, though quieter, often found herself watching James when he wasn't looking. One evening, under a sky full of stars, he finally said the words that had long been written in his eyes. "You don't owe me anything, Ella. I know." She replied softly, "That's why I stay." When spring came, wildflowers bloomed across the valley, bright and defiant, just like the girls who had once been sold and the men who fought to save them. And every traveler who passed through that land spoke of 2 quiet ranchers and the women who turned their lonely valley into a home built not from money or power, but from courage, love, and freedom.